Welcome back, everybody. In today's episode, we're going to be building the supports to hold up the steering wheel, helm, and dashboard area here, because right now they're just floating in midair, and the only reason they aren't falling down is because this trap door is holding them apart. So we're going to build the supports for those, but first we need to build some temporary supports for them to hold them up while we're working with it. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so we've got our 2x4 pieces cut out and they're underneath the dashboards now, supporting them, holding them up. So now because of that, we were able to finally open up this door, because before it was really getting jammed up on it and you couldn't open it or else they'd fall down even further. So now we can open this up and walk through here, which is really nice. So now what we're going to do is underneath here, we're going to cut out some plywood that's going to go from the floor up to the bottom of this across. Alright guys, we've got the piece cut out here and it fits into place just how we need it to. And I even went ahead and I got this seam cover upholstery that goes over it. And I gotta say, it fits into place really well. It looks good. So I think we're ready to go ahead and install it. And the way we're going to do that is by gluing it in with some thickened resin at the bottom to the deck, as well as in between the old dash and the new piece into that gap. And then on the inside of this, we're going to do a sheet of fiberglass to really get it secured in there with no chance of it accidentally cracking or anything. Alright, I've got the thickened resin mixed up, so now let's go ahead and start gluing it in. Alright, so now that we've got this piece drying, the heat gun really worked well on it. But now, let's go ahead and cut out our piece to go over on this side. Alright, we've got this piece cut out and put into place, and it fits just right. So I guess we're good to go ahead and get this one installed as well. So we've let the peanut butter dry up on these pieces down here. They are now set in stone. They aren't coming out, I can tell you that. And let me show you guys, because what we were dealing with was trying to figure out the right height for these, and I think it turned out pretty good. So you can see we can close this hatch door now just fine. And I know some of y'all are probably going to look at the top here and go, oh, you should have got it to line up better. And to tell you the truth, I would have, but another problem we were dealing with at the same time was if we adjusted the height to where that would line up better, down here at the bottom of it, it created more of a gap. So we're dealing with two issues at the same time. We had to compromise and sort of meet it halfway in the middle with both of those. But all in all, it turned out good. I'm just glad the stupid thing doesn't get stuck when you're trying to open it anymore. So really, that's the number one thing there. The next thing we're going to do is actually in the back of the boat, we're going to go ahead and drill the holes through the wood transom. And the one thing I do want to say here is that it is so important to make sure that you get these holes perfectly straight. And so to do that, I would highly recommend buying a drill guide. And I got this one here right off Amazon, of course, and it's really not that expensive. Now I know some of you guys are thinking, man, I can drill holes perfectly straight. And to be honest with you, I thought the same thing. But I am telling you this, if those holes are not straight, you might really be wishing you had used a drill guide to get them straight if they don't line up when you go to put the transom assembly on, because the bolts are crooked going through the hole. So that is my one piece of advice to you. Now I also went ahead and drilled the holes for the U-bolts on the back of the boat to where the trailer harness secures the boat down. Now one thing you might notice after you drill the holes is that on the inside of the boat, some of the fiberglass on the transom might splinter out. Now what I went ahead and did was just use the Dremel tool to clean that up. What I am going to be doing now that I have everything sort of test fitted here into place, I want to go ahead and cut out the piece that I'm going to have the battery sitting on top of. And the battery actually has a case over there that it's going to be inside. There'll be screws in the bottom of that holding it to. It's just going to be a plywood piece, but it's going to be on top of the deck, separated from the deck, just glued down. And that way, if the screw holes that are going from the battery holder into that piece of plywood ever rot out or anything, the deck itself hasn't been compromised. So, we're going to go ahead, start cutting that bad boy out. And then the next one I'll cut out is probably the one for this trim ram pump to screw down to. Okay, we've got the battery mounting piece cut out and put into place. And now before we go ahead and glue that in, I am going to go ahead and cut out the mounting piece for the trim pump on that side. So that way I'll be able to glue them in at the same time and only have to use one paintbrush. Help save a little bit. Okay, got that piece cut out nice and good for the power trim pump into place. Can see it fits pretty darn well. So I think I'm ready to go ahead and glue both of these pieces down and then put a layer of chop strand mat above them. You can see I've already got the piece cut out for that side. Just need to cut out the one for that side. And then we'll get to it. Okay, well I've got these mounting plates cut out for the seat pedestals that are going to be used for the driver's side and the captain's side. And I went ahead and I outlined with the pencil where the bolt holes are going to be. And I'm going to use 1/4 inch bolt size here. And then I went ahead and went to Tractor Supply and picked up some T-nuts. And what these will do is after I drill the hole, I'll be able to put this in it from the bottom, and it has little prongs that'll lock it into place. So that way, once I fiberglass over this, and then we put the pedestal down, we'll just screw the bolt in and the nut will be inside the wood at the bottom. I made sure that I got stainless steel ones that aren't going to rust. That's very important, especially with these bolts, because this is definitely going to be exposed to water. And one thing
I was actually a little surprised by, and for anybody out there who's also doing this, you might want to stay away from buying these bolts from Home Depot for this, because they're going to sell you zinc ones which will rust, and that is definitely not what we want for this application. We want stainless steel that is not going to rust. Anyways, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead, and I've got this first one marked up. I want to drill the holes and then try to put those in from the bottom just to make sure they go in well and see how it fits. Okay, I got the first hole drilled on this, and you can see I got the bolt in. I was just making sure it fits right, and we have enough of the thread through there. You can see there's just a little bit of thread left at the end, which is good. This bad boy is actually pretty thick, so it goes most of the way through. So we got over half of the threads through that, which is good, so we don't have to worry about it pulling through or anything. Honestly, it's in there really solid with I mean, you can see I just have one bolt in and it picks the whole thing up, and our T-nut works really well on here. I mean, it's nice and flush to the bottom. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and drill the rest of the holes and get this bad boy ready to glue in. Alright, so let me go ahead and do a little quick demonstration for you of how I drill one of these holes and then put the lock nut in. So I get my little mobile drill press into place here. Then once I've got it lined up with where the hole needs to go, you just drill it through. And a nice clean hole. One tip I can give you is when you're drilling this through, if you have another board underneath the one you're drilling through, that will actually help the bottom of the wood not flange out and splinter and everything. So now that we've got that hole, we can go ahead and put our T-nut into position. And then all you do is just hammer it right in. Goes in nice and easy, and then you can see just how well the nut lines up in the hole, nice and straight. So that way you can go ahead and test with your bolt to see how well it fits in there straight up and down. And it should be pretty darn straight, as I can tell this one is right now. So that's all there is to that. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these. What I'm doing now is, before we get this piece glued into the boat, I want to make sure that none of the resin gets down in the holes inside the nut, because if it hardens on those threads, it'll make getting the bolts in a pain in the butt. So to help with that, I'm just covering up the holes with a little piece of tape, and then I'm making a little Sharpie mark right at the center of the hole, so after I fiberglass it in, after it's glued down in the boat, I'll be able to go back through and re-drill through the fiberglass to get right on the center of the hole again. And that way the threads will still be perfectly clean after it's in. So I've got this one pretty much good to go. I'm also doing that same thing on the bottom so that the thickened resin doesn't get up on the threads from the bottom of it too. So I've got this one pretty much done. It's good to go. Now I need to go ahead and do the rest of that stuff for that one as well, and then these will be good to go in the boat. So a little bit of a status update. We got these guys fiberglassed in really well. As I'm sure you saw, it took forever just continuing to just dab at it to get all the air bubbles out and all the creases to get it to lay down flat. It was pretty tough. It just takes some time, but we got it and it went down really nice. I mean, you can't see any air bubbles in those. Same thing back here. These turned out pretty nice. I'll say I think this one was easier than the pedestal mounts because the circular shape is just, I don't know, is more difficult. Then the trim pump one went down good as well. So now that we've got those done, I've got basically everything ready to go ahead and paint the deck. But what I decided I want to do first is I do want to make the seat boxes up here as well, so then I'll paint all of this all together at the same time. So what I'm going to do now is get my measurements and then start cutting out the pieces to make these boxes. So there's going to be a piece there, piece here, and I think I'm just going to do this as one piece all the way up to the front, and then two pieces going side to side connecting to it. And then same thing over there. And then also a little piece that goes on top of all that. But that's what we're going to do now. Pardon me.
And that is where we are going to end today's episode. Coming up in the next episode, what we're going to be doing is building the seat boxes in the bow of the boat. So stay tuned for that. I do want to give a huge shout out as we just got 200 subscribers. It was only a little over a month ago that we barely had 100. So a huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed. But that is going to do it for today. I will see you guys next time.